Are you ready to turn your podcast idea into a reality? All you need is 7 days with my 7-day podcast launch challenge. In just 1 week, we'll go from overwhelm to launching with clarity, confidence, and a growth plan. Every day we tackle key tasks, helping you get it into a rhythm so that easily, weekly, you can put out a quality podcast in minimal time. Plus, you'll get personalized support and join a community to keep you on track. Are you ready to launch and start growing today?
It doesn't have to be this way. And that includes for your health, for women, your hormones. You don't have to suffer through perimenopause and menopause. Like, there's answers. Just dig, because it does not have to be this way. You are not destined to just suffer.
Has your life, your dreams been interrupted? Good news. It is possible to reinvent our lives. People are doing it every day, and some are brave enough to share the struggles, disappointments, and challenges. If you are looking for a new beginning, a do-over, or to rediscover your passion, maybe even find a new one, then grab a cup of coffee and let's talk. Interrupted, Act 2, Reinventing Your Legacy, with your host, Coach Lori.
Stephanie Groves is a business owner, a trainer, and a fierce mama bear. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Let's start out with what you're doing now. Tell us a little bit about your businesses and your training and what you do. And then we'll move on to what your interruption was that got you there.
I am in the beauty industry. I've actually technically been in and out of the beauty industry since I was 18, now 50. I am a business owner, own a beauty service business. I do body and face sculpting, cellulite reduction, teeth whitening reduction. And my main love is health coaching. So that is my absolute passion. And then I also have a business where I sell educational courses that teach you how to take a brick and mortar business, direct sales business, an affiliate business, and take it from A to Z to scale you online, setting up funnels, automation. I didn't create the courses. I'm a reseller, so I resell the courses. I do know the creator of them, or you can sell the courses yourself. So it's kind of a multifaceted. And I also train. So I train people to do the body sculpting, which is what I'm trying to kind of flip my business over into, is training others to do what I do. My other passion is just my family.
Were you always interested in the body sculpting?
I started out in cosmetology. So I was doing hair. Originally, when I did hair, it was in the South, so in the southern portion of Virginia. I was about a month from finishing, or a couple months. I got really sick with my first pregnancy. It was my lungs. I did not know what it was at the time. They kept saying it was bronchitis. I had to come out because I needed to get well to be able to have a baby. Fast forward down the road, I went back to school at Gene Juarez in Seattle, Washington. I was over halfway through the program and I got really sick. It was very embarrassing. I would be doing someone's hair and my nose would start bleeding. I would have to run to the bathroom and I would be coughing up blood. It was just horrible. And then one day I woke up and pretty much half my eyes were filled with blood. Like, it was just horrible. Went to the doctor. So here I am, I'm going through a divorce. I'm thinking I'm going to use this to set me and my kids up to be able to take care of them. The rug just got pulled out from under me. And I went to the doctor. She sent me to a specialist and he said, you have toxic chemical burns to your respiratory system. About 1 to 2% of the population of the entire world has this condition. You have to stop now or you're going to be dead in a month. And I was in utter shock. And I started to say something to him and he stops me and he goes, I could put you in a hazmat suit and it's still not going to help. Like, it's done. You have to get out. It was the biggest blow I think I've ever had. I came out of that and then I had gotten on at Nordstrom. I started out as a Bobbi Brown rep and then there was a big shift at that time at Nordstrom. They were doing a lot of layoffs. I was retained, which was amazing because I'd only been there a month and they retained me. And then about 6 months later, I was same thing. I was coughing up blood. My eyes were filled. It was terrible. And I realized it was the perfume and I didn't even think about it. I had no clue that was going to affect me in that regard. I had to come out of that. This time it was different. And this was when the battle with the medical community really happened. So the battle started happening because I was really blurry in my right eye. I was dropping things. I couldn't hardly get out of bed. It was terrible. And I've been going through this for a long time. I was kind of gaining weight. Nothing made sense. going to the allopathic community. I did have a wonderful doctor in Seattle. Fast forward, they did all these MRIs, all this testing on me. They thought I was having MS, strokes, and everything was coming back. No. I went to a neurologist. My current husband and I walked in and I sat down and I'm just starting to tell him what's going on. Didn't even make it 2 minutes into the conversation. There's nothing wrong with you. You're making it up. It's all in your head. And at that time, I just kind of stopped and I looked at my husband and I was like, did he just, what? It was like, are we being punked? I looked at him and was like, I'm not faking this. What are you talking about? He cut me off again and said, you're just wanting attention. You're making this up. There's nothing wrong with you. And in that moment, it was without being stunned. My husband was like, we need to get out of here now. Like he was so irate. We get to the car. I just break down crying and I'm not a crier. And I just break down crying. And I'm like, I'm crying because I'm pissed. I was so angry. My husband said, well, we have to find an alternative. We have to seek out something else. That's when I went into naturopathic medicine. And I found it was McQuinn Naturopathic at the time. I went to Beth. I was just despondent. And she said, let's run the panel. So I went and had my blood drawn, about 10, 12 tubes of blood. And I still had no hope because I had been just crushed with everything I'd been told. 4 weeks later, I walk into her office, I sit down and my mind is set. She's going to tell me there's nothing wrong. Like my mind was already set. And she looked at me and said, you're not crazy. You're really sick. And that validation, it's like, okay, I really am sick. I had Epstein-Barr virus, but it had been raging in my body for so long that my organs were kind of shutting down. Like it took us a little while to get it in remission, but once it got into remission, it stayed. And I've kept it in remission all these years. So about 2010 to now, we have tested periodically throughout the time, then started my next journey, kept saying, why am I gaining weight? And this was my late 30s. So I went from like being in the best shape of my life and I lifted weights. I've been lifting weights since my late 20s. I was an athlete in high school, danced in college. I'd always been fit. All of a sudden, everything went downhill. Late 30s. And at this time, nobody talked about hormones. Nobody talked about perimenopause. Nobody talked about what to expect. I had gone through a naturopath. They were all wonderful, but there's certain things that you can outgrow a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor if they're not specialized. So I had advocated for myself for years. And finally, around 2021, I got my gut testing. I had advocated and I got my gut testing. And it came back horrible. Celiac disease, SIBO, had candida overgrowth. It was a mess. And I had been doing this at this point in time for about 11 years. They meant well, but everything they did made it worse. And I'm not kidding. Maybe this is TMI. I was in the bathroom 15 to 20 times a day for 13 years. So this was 13 years. I was like this. Fast forward 2 years and I came across Dr. Anthony Chafee and it was carnivore. I listened to his lecture at UW. My husband came home and I had him watch it. And he said, this makes sense. I started the carnivore. Within 3 months, I had reversed everything except my celiac and I had my life back. At the same time frame, I had found a naturopathic doctor who really did know hormones. At the time I was doing pelleting. So I'd started, my testosterone was flatlined, completely flatlined. And my doctor told me if I would have gone to an allopathic doctor, even an endocrinologist, they would have told me my level was fine and they would have sent me home. Fast forward to around, I had started kind of a little supplementation, but from March to May, for the first time in 13 years, I dropped 30 pounds just with ease. And I'm working out, I'm doing all, so I call it all the things, right? So I'm eating the way I need to eat. I'm supplementing the way I need to supplement. I'm taking the hormones I need to take, and I'm lifting 4 to 5 days a week in the gym. So I'm doing all the things. It's a combination of all the things. June, boom, I hit a wall. My weight loss stopped. No more periods. I was like, oh my gosh, I started feeling depressed. It was wild. So from June to November, I just felt worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, this isn't me. What's going on? 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I was literally pacing my house. And I'm like, I feel like I'm having a nervous breakdown, but I'm not having a nervous breakdown. What is this? And I'm very in tune with my body. And I said, this is perimenopause. This has to be. There has to be a connection. I called my daughter-in-law's mom, who were all going through this at the same time. And she's like, that is exactly what it is. Call your doctor ASAP. It's either your estrogen's plummeted, like something's gone. Shortly after Thanksgiving, I called. She said, welcome to the wild ride. She's like, that's exactly what is going on. We have to get you in here. We got to get the blood work. She automatically put me on a little estrogen patch. The blood work came back. And what had happened was my estrogen was low, but my testosterone had gone way, way up. Then I went on a peptide as well. So you're talking, I'm on progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and I started a peptide. The peptide was what the most amazing thing was. Within 2 days of taking it, all of a sudden my anxiety was gone. I'm like, my brain fog, gone. And I have squirrel brain. So for my brain fog to be gone was amazing. Like I had focus. When you're balancing your hormones, don't get too anxious. Like if your weight's not dropping immediately, if this isn't happening, it has to get in that system and start to recalibrate. So just let it recalibrate. But now I feel amazing. Scales are going down. What ended up bringing me back to beauty industry was because I got back into the beauty industry because there's no chemicals. So body sculpting, it used to be called endermology. I actually had it done in Pennsylvania. I couldn't find it when I came back to Washington. So when I found it, it gave me an opportunity to get back into what I love to do, the beauty industry. And because I can use the beauty and the health, it can be one and the same. And so it drove me back into the beauty industry. But the health industry, I got my health coaching certification 8 years ago to heal my own body. And I never utilized it. I said, if I can heal myself, then I can help others. If I can't help me heal myself, why am I trying to take care of somebody else? Take care of my own backyard first. So I launched my health coaching last year because I'm like, now I can help you.
You healed yourself, you launched your business, but those aren't the only medical journeys you've had. You've had to be fierce for your children. As
I didn't really realize till later in my life, it was my first battle with the medical field. My older daughter could not speak, meaning she couldn't make out words. She jumbled a lot, but she couldn't really talk. When she started kindergarten, her words were just like, she couldn't make her enunciations and it was just jumbled. I knew there was something wrong. I went to her pediatrician and they had sent her to, I want to say it was like a child psychologist or something to evaluate her. And she immediately was like, oh, she's just got ADD. We need to just put her on some medication. And that moment I was like, I don't think that's what's wrong. Like my ex-husband had said, well, why don't we at least give her, let's at least try it and see what happens. And I still was not comfortable with it. But I'm like, okay, my deal was I'm going to give her one dose. If anything happens after this one dose, it's in the garbage. I gave her one dose and it made her completely catonic and vomiting. I'm like, nope, that's it. None. So then I called her pediatrician and I was like, okay, this is what they diagnosed her with. This is not it. Like, oh, what's going on? He said, I didn't send her there for ADD. She doesn't have ADD. What are you talking about? What do you mean they put her on meds? So my own pediatrician was like infuriated. He sent her to a neuropsychologist and she did like this, I think it was like a 2-hour testing. The doctor came out and said, she doesn't have ADD at all. That's not even what's wrong with her. She has auditory processing disorder. So auditory processing disorder is when, for her, it was, she couldn't filter out the sounds around her to hear the voice because all the sounds were jumbled. That's what she was hearing. So that's what she was regurgitating. She said the way to fix this is 3 times a week, come here and we work with her. They put headphones on her to filter out the sound. They wore a microphone. So the only thing she could hear was the words. They implemented that. She went to the school and they implemented that in the school system. Within like 3 weeks, my daughter was speaking perfectly and she went through speech therapy. So this followed her. We moved from Washington to Texas, Texas to Pennsylvania. And this followed her. We would have to explain it to each school we went to. At the time, she did have an IED. We moved from Pennsylvania back to Washington. She was in middle school. And when we came back, she says, I don't want an IED anymore. I want to do it like everybody else. And the school kind of pushed back on me and I pushed back on them. It's like my way or the highway. We did it. And she was a honor roll student throughout her entire career. She was captain of her ROTC, graduated with honors. I mean, I wasn't going to hold her back. And a funny story too, is when she was graduating kindergarten, they wanted to hold her back. I was adamant against it. I asked her, do you want to stay back with your teacher or do you want to go forward? And she said, can I think about it? I was like, sure. And it was 2 days later. It was like 10:30 at night. And she comes down the stairs and says, Mom, I'm not a baby. I'm going to first grade. We're going to first grade. So I called the school the next day and I was like, she's going to first grade. She soared ever since. My second battle happened with my youngest daughter years down the road. She had ankle surgery. She's a volleyball player and her ankles, the tendons were slipping off because the bone was smooth instead of grooved. So she had an original surgery on one of her ankles. Surgery went flawless. She healed. It was great. Well, it turns out that the same thing was wrong with the other one. She had a surgery. It didn't take right. So they had to go back in. And the second time they went back in, it wasn't the physician, but the anesthesiologist did a nerve block. Usually you're awake, I guess, during a nerve block and they put her to sleep. There was a severing of like nerve damage. Her foot wouldn't go to a 90-degree angle. It was like her brain. It wouldn't tell her foot to go to 90 degrees. So from there, she got into an AFO.
What's an AFO?
It's a custom built a leg restraint. So basically it goes into her shoe and she straps it around a brace. It's basically like a brace and it would keep her foot at 90 degrees. And she had to sleep in a brace at night that kept her foot at 90 degrees to try to keep it from like atrophying. This went on for years. She even had another surgery at Harborview by a specialist. When he did the surgery, he showed me she was asleep and her foot went to 90 degrees. I was telling him, wait a minute, we might be able to do something about this. We started looking into alternative therapies because she developed what's known as CRPS. It's very painful. It's unbelievably painful. They were talking amputation because when the nerves seize, it can actually cause the foot to contract. It can even break the bones in the limb. At this time, my daughter is 23, and we started looking at ketamine. And she was told about ketamine therapy. They told her that it would be, for her, it could be pretty rough because it's long infusions. So it's 4-hour infusions at really high doses, but that this could be your saving grace. So we went about another year and her foot started getting really bad, like really painful, atrophying really bad. The nerves were getting really bad. And the doctor told her, Gabby, if not now, it's done. Like if you don't try this ketamine, we're going to have to amputate. And she's 24 and she's a select volleyball coach. I mean, like this is her world. And we started the ketamine. So the way ketamine works is you do 2 infusions a week for 3 weeks, maybe like a day apart or so, maybe 2 days. And her first 2 infusions, she was pretty nauseous after the first one. The second one, she was okay. The next 2 were absolutely brutal. It was just brutal. The next 2, she did amazing. Because they have to kind of get your anti-nausea medication right and everything, And after that, she started physical therapy hard. Like it's very intense physical therapy that you have to do after you do this ketamine. Within a month after the ketamine and a month after physical therapy, after 6 years, 5-6 years. Yeah. She's out of her AFO. She's wearing regular shoes. She's now able to jump again to train her players. She's working out again. So her world changed. And now they told her she could go 2 months without ketamine for maintenance. She made it 5 months. She just had her maintenance infusion. It was pretty rough, but she had her maintenance infusion, but she made it 5 months when they were only said she probably would only make it 2. That was another that we had in the medical field, but looking for alternatives to that. It worked. I mean, it's incredible. There's so much out there that can help that's the medical community does not really like because they don't make money, quite honestly. That's why we've had our health battles, but we've overcome. And I think that's what I always tell people, like, don't give up. I spent 13 years not giving up. I spent years with my daughter not giving up, both my daughters. That's just what I want to encourage people. Like, be your own advocate. They don't own you. Your doctor doesn't own you. Nobody owns you. Be your own advocate. And that's just really what I want people to know. And that's one of the things, like with my health coaching, it's helping people get to that place of thriving. I don't want people to just survive in life. We are not meant to survive. We are meant to absolutely thrive in all aspects of life, including our own health. Fighting for your health, absolutely. Fight as much as you can. And if you outgrow your doctor, it's okay to go to another one. That's okay.
If somebody wants to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Email via my Instagram. I have 2 Instagrams, one's for my digital, one's for my health and beauty. Reach out through those. My Instagram is at Elegant Sculpt and Renew. And then my email is just stephanie.n.groves, GROVES @gmail.com.
Before we go, what is it that you really want us to know?
My saying is it doesn't have to be this way. And that includes for your health, for women, your hormones. You don't have to suffer through perimenopause and menopause. In life, you don't have to, like, there's answers. Just dig, keep finding, because it does not have to be this way. You are not destined to just suffer. That's nobody's destiny. It should not be anybody's destiny. My daughter's CRPS, it was unbelievably, they call it the suicide disease. I mean, it's that kind of pain. It doesn't have to be this way. Look for the alternatives and live life to the fullest.
Stephanie, before we go, you had mentioned your work with peptides.
So
Can you
peptides
talk
are
a little bit about
they're
that?
a little misunderstood, and they've been given kind of a bad rap. So I'm just going to throw the bomb in there. Semaglutide, tirzepatide, those are peptides. That's what they are. The difference is when you're getting them from a research facility or a compounding facility, they're not made the same way that the big pharma is making the pre-filled pens. Peptides are regenerative, including like tirzepatide. I mean, it's been shown to regenerate the gut, the brain, the liver. It's a regenerative. It's not the peptides. The peptides in the allopathic community are being given in pre-filled pens at high doses. The peptides now, I don't know how Big Pharma is making the peptide. They kind of co-opted it. So peptides have been around for about 20 years. Big Pharma kind of co-opted it. When I speak of peptides, I speak from the compounding aspect, not the Big Pharma aspect. But Big Pharma is the one, the doctors, allopathic doctors are not using compounding pharmacies. They're using Big Pharma. They're pre-filled pens, but they're high doses. It's not the peptide. It's the dose. If I take a vitamin C, I'm going to be great. If I take a whole bottle, it's going to hurt me. If I take a gallon of water, I'm okay. If I drink my 5-gallon water, it's going to kill me. Anything that's good can be harmful. It's the dose. There's other peptides that help with inflammation. There's peptides that help with sleep, peptides that help with muscle growth and muscle retention, your brain. I mean, there's so many peptides across the board. The key is stacking, like learning how to stack them. I was just in a 2-hour seminar on peptides. It's being able for me to actually guide people. These are the peptides. This is where you need to go. There is a compounding pharmacy. It's a research facility, but I have done a ton of research, and this is the only place I would send people, teaching you how to dose it. So learning how to really, it's low and slow. You do not have to crank these things up like we're cranking them up. You just don't have to do that. The difference that they can make, especially in women who are going through perimenopause and menopause. We focus so much on the weight loss, but there's so many other things that's going on. Your anxiety, your brain fog, depression can hit you. I mean, you feel so scattered. These can calm all that down, and they're completely safe, absolutely safe. And especially in low microdose or low dosing them. There's just a world of difference when you start using them. And just like I said, knowing how to stack them. And there's so much misinformation that's being given. And the reason is there's so many peptides that could absolutely replace everything that's in big pharma. Absolutely. For pennies on the dollar.
So if somebody wanted to try peptides, if they thought that sounds like what I need, would they call you?
You could contact me. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible what peptides can do. Regeneration of the liver as well. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm just very honored that I got to meet you. Yeah.
Oh.
If you love this podcast, here's a big ask. Will you share with your friends and family, subscribe, give us a review, and a 5-star rating so that others looking to reinvent their lives will be able to get the help they're looking for? Thank you in advance.